Natalia, welcome along.
Thank you very much, Rhea. Glad to be here.
Really good to have your company this afternoon. I wonder, when you hear Putin saying that sanctions aren't working, how that is reflected in your experience as a talent agent representing Russian and Ukrainian artists in the past.
Well, it is a lie, obviously. As you surely heard, Russia is plagued by propaganda a lot. So many of my friends who still live in Russia, they tell me what is actually going on, and but also tell me what is going on in Russia and what is being told or sold to them, which is an absolute opposite of what is actually happening. It may have, of course, it seems like to those who are just based in Russia and those who only work in Russia, to them it might seem, yes, okay, everything is going well, everything is fine, but only because they're blocked from the rest of the world. Even little things such as Facebook, WhatsApp, and so on is not really working without VPN service.
Tell me about your experiences working as a talent agent and representing both Russian and Ukrainian performers. How have you found the situation with actually working, with continuing to work amid economic sanctions and cultural penalties too?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I didn't only work with Russian and Ukrainian artists. I also had Italian artists and British artists and French artists working with me who worked in Russia. So when the war started, many of my contracts for my Italian conductors and stage directors were canceled in Russia, unless they would have signed a paper saying we support the decision of Putin. So basically, if you wanted to work in Russia, you would have to sign a letter stating that you agree with this non-war but military action. This is one side of the story. Then there was this other side of the story, which basically led me to closing down my company, which I opened in 2014 and worked in the opera business since 2002, was when a Ukrainian artist who was supposed to perform at La Scala, one of the greatest opera houses in the world, in a Russian opera. And as soon as La Scala openly announced the casts for this production of Boris Godunov, my artist called me and said, please, we have to cancel. And I said, how come? We waited for this contract for such a long time. It could be a huge break. He said, I can't do it because the Ukrainian government is basically threatening him with consequences, including not letting him out of the country, which is understandable in a way, but also including him losing his job at the opera house in Kiev and other consequences which he didn't want to mention. But they were all written in a letter, which I saw. Then, so we had to cancel the contract. La Scala didn't understand, but okay, c'est la vie. Then about half a year later, I had the possibility to offer the same thing for him from the Munich State Opera, another huge opera house, A-level opera house. But it was also, again, a Russian opera. And he had to cancel that as well, because he, as a Ukrainian artist, is not allowed to perform in a Russian opera.
You talked about your talent agency, which you set up back in 2014, having to close down. What took you to that point?
Well, first of all, Corona, of course. And then when everything started going well and the artists recovered their contracts and everything seemed to get back to normal, and we had contracts at La Scala, at Bavarian Opera House, and so on, Zurich, these contracts needed to be canceled, or we had numerous discussions about how an artist, what the artist's views are on Putin and on the situation between Russia and Ukraine. And of course, any normal human being understands that what Putin is doing is I don't know how to say it, is a tragic, it's a crisis against humanity. So everybody understands that. And of course, all my artists were against his actions, but some of them still living in Russia couldn't say it out loud. I had also a case of an opera singer who had a child custody case in St. Petersburg. And the opera house asked her to please write an open statement declaring that she's against Putin and his actions. And she said, listen, I can tell you all of this as much as you want. And it's true, because I am completely against Putin. But I can't do it because I will lose the custody case. I will lose my child.
It's incredible to consider the position in which people are being put in, and how often those stories perhaps aren't being told, as the bigger story is the one we focus on. As we're approaching 500 days since the invasion, since Russia invaded Ukraine, what position are the performers you used to work with, Natalia, in now?
Well, it is getting better a little bit, of course, from the side of the European opera houses, thank God. They are more open-minded now, and they still want to perform Russian operas, which is a great plus. I mean, what does Tchaikovsky have to do with Putin and his actions? Nothing. Why should the Russian culture be suffering from that?